Hi, this is Mark Laughlin with the Ambidextral Gunfighter. I'm going to do a follow-up. This is a post-Desert Tech MDR review of the BCM, the Bravo Company Manufacturing RECCE. This is the AR15 by Bravo Company. Now, this is just an amazing version of the AR platform or the stoner design. I'm very fond of it. But I'm going to go over the limitations in comparison to the MDR and why I think, even though this is an awesome example of an AR, it still, compared to the MDR, to me is somewhat of a relic. But let's start from with this one. Now I've got the K-Mod version, I think, which is fine because I really don't like mounting a lot of stuff on it. Maybe I would like to mount a small lightweight light on it, but I don't. To me, it's it's for the foregrip is what I'm using it for. And then also I did mount, of course, a quick detach sling stud here. So that's really the only thing I use the K-Mod for. You also notice I do not run backup irons. I have a lot of faith in the Trijicon ACOG, and so I like to keep things simple, less snagging, less things to snag on stuff. And the way I figure, if for some reason somehow the ACOG quit working, which I'm not sure how would happen, I would point shoot the rifle just by basically looking down the barrel. But honestly, I don't expect the ACOG to ever have any problems. I mean, these things are tanks. You can run over them with your vehicle and they're still going to function. I suppose if they got shot right in the glass from incoming fire, that could certainly damage it. But if that happens, it's just about as likely to take out your BIS as well. But I'm not going to disparage anyone who puts backup iron sights on their rifle. For me, I like to keep the weight down and make the rifle as snag-free as possible. Now, talking about snag-free, on the ACOG, the ACOG mount came with these huge nuts on it. And I did a video where which I called something like castrating the ACOG or something, But what I did was I basically pulled those big giant bulbous nuts off. They stuck out way out here, and replaced them with little and cut the studs back a bit, so they didn't, because the studs still stuck out pretty far, so I had to cut them back. And then got some started with little 5mm aluminum nuts that you'll find on Amazon, very affordable, that the quadcopter people are using. The reason I got some of those, my son had a whole stack of them, so I tried those. I had no troubles with the aluminum nuts, but I did finally replace them with steel versions. So I feel a little bit better about having steel on there. Now, the reason I think that Trijicon has those big giant nuts on there is they're basically to be thumb nuts. You're supposed to tighten this down with just your hands, and then I think go another quarter turn to get the appropriate torque on those. Too many people, I believe, over tighten their scope mounting bases to the pick rail, and so you do want to be careful that you do not over tighten these. And I'll leave it to you to explore and discover what the proper torque setting is. I use my tiny quarter-inch drive wrench and just gripped up on it, kind of choked up on the short ratchet, and just slightly snugged it down, but just want to make sure I didn't over tighten it. So let's look at this again, going back from the Ambidextral Gunfighter perspective. Now, if you watch some other videos, you know that what I argue for, one is the reasons for being ambidextrous is for the optimal use of cover. And that's switching from right hand to left hand seamlessly without even thinking about it. It should be an unconscious process. And to make that unconscious process work, and to get that bilateral transfer, this mental thing going on, some psychology, they call it bilateral transfer, where basically your brain basically copies what you've learned with your strong hand, your right hand in my case, and copies it over to your left hand. So that fine trigger control you've developed right-handed, your brain eventually figures out what you're doing, and it basically copies that that skill over to your left hand. So anyway, what you want in a rifle to expedite and optimize your ability as an ambidextral gunfighter is a rifle that is perfectly mirrored left and right. So the controls should be in the exact same position left and right. They should feel identical left and right. Now, one of the things I talk about is, the example I give is, imagine that if shooting right-handed, the trigger was like on this rifle is just an awesome trigger. It's a kind of a mil-spec trigger, about 5 pounds, but it's super crisp break, very nice. But imagine your rifle was 5 pounds and a crisp break right-handed, and then when you switched to left-handed, it was 15 pounds and gritty. Probably not a good combination for good marksmanship when switching left to right. So that applies to all your other controls as well. Now, the AR can be easily equipped with a nice ambidextrous safety. And I did get this one direct from BCM. It's identical on both sides. What you want is you want to make sure, if you're running a short throw safety, make sure you run short throw on both left and right side. You don't want the long throw on one side and a short throw on the other. Make it the same both sides. And so that's perfectly mirrored. Now, the other thing is the mag release. Now, unfortunately, there's really not a good way to make a AR 100% truly ambidextrous left and right. Now, this one is equipped with an Arms Unlimited adapter thing here that basically is this little lever that gives you mag release functionality on this side of the rifle. And it's okay. It does an okay job, but the feel is not identical, and it's slightly, the position of pushing it and releasing it is a little bit further to the rear from left to right than this push button mag over here. You get a much better feel on this side than I do on this side, but I can do the mag drop with this, so that helps. Now, the real downside is the bolt release. Left and right, there's just, you can get a bad lever, but that's just a bunch of a kludgy, cluttery thing, and it doesn't position it in the exact same space. To make it perfectly mirrored, the release on this side would have to be right up here into the ejection port, and it's just not going to happen. So that's just, now everybody says, the people who are non-ambi, this thing, well, we'll just do the whole reach under thing, like that. And yeah, you can do that, but the thing is when you're gunfighting and you're in the zone, you really, and I've learned this from paintball, you really do not think, when you're fighting, you don't think, okay, here I am shooting right-handed, and now I'm shooting left-handed. It's all seamless. You just make optimal use of cover however it needs to happen, whether it's shooting right or left-handed. And so your brain doesn't, it's expecting things to be perfectly mirrored from one side to the other. And so that's why that's a downside to the Stoner design. And I don't know of any real effective way around that without a complete redesign of the lower, at least, and a different magazine probably as well. Now, this BCM RECCE, they sent it to me with a nice ambi charging handle, which can unlock whether on left or right-handed shooting it. And that is actually it's a really nice setup. I like that. It's centralized on it and it works really well. What I don't like compared to the 8 MDR is that to operate it with the shoulder, you basically have to bring your head up off the stock to pull this charging handle back. It's just in the way of your cheek weld there. So that's the downside of the AR. Whereas the MDR, you had your charging handle up here, up in this area, so you could actually run the charging handle with the rifle still shouldered. Now, the other thing with the AR is this forward assist. Now, it is in the way of if you're shooting left-handed and you want to come here and grab the charging handle, it's an obstruction compared to when you're right-handed and you want to operate the charging handle. You have clean access to it. Now, BCM has a new upper that has shifted this forward assist a little bit forward. And I like to think that maybe that was in response to my complaints about the issue. I don't know if it was or not, but hey, I'll take credit for it. But it's kind of a heady thing to think of, that I might have had some input with BCM. I mean, that's amazing. Whether it was me or someone else, I'm glad to see that they're moving it forward. Now, I'm not even sure that you need a charging handle. I mean, a forward assist. I'm not even sure we need a forward assist. Now, I'll leave that to people who've actually been in combat situations with the Stoner platform design. Is it something you actually use? Because in my training is, if the rifle doesn't go bang, my thing is not to go forward assist. Mine is tap the magazine and then rack and then bang. Tap, rack, bang. I don't even, it's just not a part of my thing to do the forward assist. Now, I think if I were doing a chamber check, just pulling it back a little bit and it didn't go all the way forward, okay, maybe then I would use it. But that seems like a needless obstruction for just doing chamber checks. I think I'd rather eject the round and load a fresh round and then top my magazine back off if I'm just doing a chamber check. But that's something I'm not going to consider that a huge downside. To me, the big things is I would really like to see Ambi mag releases that were better and Ambi bolt releases that were better. Okay, now just on looking at the BCM, the build quality is just amazing. I mean, you can go on their website and look up, they take great care in like making sure the bolt carrier group is all super inspected and high quality and everything. And this isn't the only rifle. I mean, they sent me this one to use when I did the Ambidextral Gunfighter booklet. And so it's featured in my booklet, which, by the way, is being updated right now. Got a whole lot of new stuff to add into that. But besides this rifle, both my sons have BCMs, and a couple of their friends have BCMs. And we've had terrific luck with them. In fact, I can't even remember. I know I've not had any malfunctions on this one, and I can't recall any my sons or their friends having malfunctions with theirs as well. Now, it's kind of funny. One of the kids' friends from down in Colorado, he has a BCM, but he's totally tricked it out with all Geisley parts. I mean, he's even got a Geisley mount for his ACOG. So I mean, hardcore, Geisley trigger, of course, but everything, you go on Geisley and he's got everything on it. And I kind of made fun of him the last time we were hanging out, and he shows up with this beautiful BCM all Geisley'd out, and he comes up there with wolf ammo, and I'm like, dude, what are you fucking thinking? You spend all this money decking out your rifle, and then you save $40 to buy steel case ammo instead of brass case. Oh well, whatever. Anyway, let's get back to the rifle. It's just a great feel. The grip is really solid and good. I like this. It was a little bit stiff at first, but once I got used to it, it works great. For the buttstock, I have a GI sling, which I got from Project Appleseed store. You can also get these from Amazon as well. And there are links on my Ambidextral Gunfighter store that link to Amazon where you can get that. And of course, a little bit of the proceeds. If you buy something from my store, I get a little bit of kickback. I think I made $5 last month. Woohoo! I might buy me some ammo, or at least what? Okay, I can buy me maybe 2 rounds for my 4570. But anyway, thanks for whoever bought stuff from my store. It definitely helps out. At least I'm hoping in the future maybe it'll help out a little bit more. Mainly, I put that on there, Joe, just to point out things that I've bought and I've really liked. And I don't put anything on there. I don't just use the Amazon stuff where they create a store for me and they dump a lot of junk in there. It's all stuff I've actually bought and used and liked. So take that for whatever that's worth. Now this comes with the typical, just the basket cage looking flash hider. It's fine. I suppose you could, throw on a suppressor or a muzzle brake. The recoil on it's super mild. I do find that with the this Ambi charging handle, when I get up in my turkey neck cheek weld and I'm right up in here, it is. I'm getting tapped with it, but with an AR, it's such a light tap. It's just basically a love tap, so not a big deal. Anyway, I'm really impressed with the rifle. The trigger is terrific. It is a standard 5-pound mil-spec type trigger, but it's got a super clean break, and then a nice sweet, I mean, just it's not even maybe a 1/16 or 1/8 of an inch reset, tactile and very audible. So a very nice trigger. It is about 5 pounds. So I mean, if you want a lighter trigger, you could drop one of those in. I actually don't mind it. I did the first time I took this out to a Project Appleseed known distance event. The first day out there, I was like, I thought, shit, I'm not going to qualify. We were at the, full distance, 100, 200, 300, 400 yards for the Appleseed stuff. It was an instructors only event. And I was like, man, I've gotten used to my BX trigger and my Ruger 1022, which is pretty light and soft. So anyway, so I got back home kind of, discouraged that night, and had a phone call with one of the other instructors, and he said, man, you just need to spend a half hour doing some dry firing with that thing. I don't know why I didn't. I mean, I should have known. That's the advice I would have given myself if I'd have thought about it with just a moment. But so that's exactly what I did. I spent about almost an hour actually dry firing. Next day, qualified. Got my rifleman scores, left and right-handed with this rifle. Oh, interesting thing was the first time I switched to left-handed, and this was before I actually had the Arms Unlimited mag release on it. And so, I dropped down into, it was during one of the, what they call rapid fire test on the qualification, where you're doing sitting and then rapid fire prone. And so you got a bit of a time limit, and you're doing a magazine change. So it's, it's a little bit of stress, the time pressures. And I was all in the zone, dropped down and made the two shots, and went to drop the magazine, and was, shooting left-handed, and I went to drop the magazine, and I pushed. And of course, this was, like I said, before I had this Arms Unlimited thing here, but I pushed where I was expecting the mag button to be, and nothing happened. So pushed harder, and it really, all of a sudden, I was like out of my zone. What the fuck is going on here? The mag's not right, and the clock is ticking. I'm panicking, and then I finally realized, oh shit, I got to go over and push it on this side. And so that's like a perfect example of what I'm talking about. When you get in the zone, you're not thinking shooting left or right. It's just, you're just shooting. It's just, that's an unconscious thing, being left or right-handed, once you develop the skill set. And it's not hard to do. I've got the whole video series. Be sure and check it out, the Ambidextral Gunfighter video series. And so, and it really threw me out. And the thing was I did it in the sitting stage, and then when we got to the rapid fire prone stage, I did the same thing again. It was the exact same thing. I was just down there in the zone, went to drop the magazine, and again, I did recover a little bit quicker. Not totally stupid, but recover a little bit quicker. But still, I did the same thing. I was in the zone, expected the mag release to be there, and it wasn't. So. But I did in later other Army qualification or Appleseed qualification tests that we did. I did, I kind of just purposely bring myself out of the zone, make sure I did the mag change, and then did fine. And it worked out. I scored almost identical left and right-handed. Now. The rifle was just spectacular, just very accurate, reliable, 100% reliable, and it's a very lightweight rifle. So let's kind of compare this to the MDR, which if you watch my other videos, a huge fan of the Desert Tech MDR, and it's because of the 100% ambidextrous controls. It has the ambidextrous charging handle, both sides. It has the magazine release in the exact same place, both sides. Now it starts out a little bit stiff, but I was able to work it in, a little bit of grease, and it was working fine. Ambidextrous, selector switch just like the AR, and then what I really liked on the MDR was with the magazine wheel right here. You had the button right where your thumb would hit right where your thumb would hit, you know, loading a magazine. So you load a magazine, hit that release, and it's all one smooth motion. And I really, really like that. And I could like that, so Ambidextrous, it was top of the line. It does have the, you know, ejection port like a typical bullpup, which is going to be right next to your, when you're shooting left-handed, is going to be right next to your face here, but theirs ejects forward, so it's not going to hit you in the face. So that's how they deal with making their ejection port fully ambidextrous. You can switch that from one side to the other. So if you're primarily right-handed, maybe you might, you know, have it on this side. If you're primarily left-handed, you might put it on the other side. But regardless, you can unconsciously operate that rifle, you know, without getting out of the zone, having the bilateral transfer where both sides, left and right, work identically on the MDR. And that's what I really liked about it. Now, the other thing I really liked was, one, having the, where you've got on the bullpup design, you've got your pistol grip, you know, in the center of the rifle, and the action's back here. More of the weight is to the rear of the rifle. Now, what I like about that, one, is that gives you ability to dive with the rifle, dive into cover without, you know, with this rifle, if I tried diving with this, holding the pistol grip one-handed, there's no way I'd be able to hold that muzzle up. There's just too much weight out here. It's a lot of leverage on your frail little grip there, your hand grip there on the pistol grip, and that would, you know, dig in and, you know, catch your shoulder, you know, dislocate your shoulder, break a collarbone, whatever. And so there's not going to be any diving on this rifle without shifting your grip to a forward on the foregrip hold. Whereas the MDR, you could be gun up, bang, 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 run, dive for cover, back up, gun up, bang, bang, bang. And so that was kind of an unexpected benefit of the bullpup design specifically. And of course, that would apply to really any bullpup rifle, but the MDR was great. Now, the one downside on the MDR was it's 8.3 or maybe 8.6 pounds. It's kind of heavy. Now, I had the 7.62 version, so it was at that weight. That's an acceptable weight for a 7.62. Now, their 5.56 version is basically the same rifle. In fact, their barrels, I don't know if you remember on the MDR, the barrels are switched. You can swap them out, and so you can change calibers pretty fast on the MDR. Now, that's not a big feature for me. I figure if I'm going to buy new barrels and everything, I'll just let's just buy another whole rifle, have that kind of redundancy. I'd really just spend a little extra money and have a full whole package with different calibers. So I don't consider that as a big feature, a big benefit, in my opinion, from the MDR. Now, for some people, that might be. Now, the other thing was one-handed shooting. Now, this rifle, once you pull it in your shoulder, it's okay for a couple shots, but very quickly I'll start getting a little bit of a shake here, because there's a lot of weight. Right here at the pistol grip, there's a lot of weight, and it takes a lot of muscle a lot of my muscle to hold it up. Bigger guys could probably do it without a thought, without shaking or anything. But the MDR, shooting it one-handed was a piece of cake. In fact, I could shoot it one-handed almost as well, I mean not as well, but almost as well as with using a support hand. Now, the other thing I noticed was with this rifle, I often use the sling as a loop sling, or maybe the hasty sling, where you're like that. And that provides that extra support to give you, improve your steady hold factors for good marksmanship. And experimented a lot with using the loop sling and the hasty sling on the MDR. And what I found was actually with the MDR, because there's basically no weight to speak of out the foregrip, I really didn't need it. In fact, I could shoot the MDR as well without a sling as I could shoot the AR with a sling. So that's a pretty big advantage, in a pretty big in the field advantage of the MDR. Now everybody keeps, they get out and take these rifles out and they get out on the bench, and put a bunch of cushions, sandbags out here, and then support the, back up here and with their fist and do all that, and shooting from the bench. You don't notice things like that. You've got to get these rifles out in the field and shoot from field positions to detect that big difference between the MDR and the AR. And that weight out there is I mean, to think of it, this overall length is about, I think it was 6 to 8 inches longer than the MDR, and this is a 16-inch barrel, and the MDR also had a 16-inch barrel, but it was, like I said, 6, 7, or 8 inches shorter. So the overall length meant that you could shift from one side of the cover to the other without having to, like on the AR, if you're close behind cover, you often have to bring the muzzle up and then over to the other side. Okay. Whereas the MDR, you could often shift it from one side to the other, muzzle up the whole time. So that's the big things. That's why, even though this, I mean, if you really want to get an AR, that's why I think, I suggest you stick with go with the BCM. I mean, it's a great product, very well spec'd out, very well, good quality control. But if you want to learn those ambidextrous gunfighting skills, then sorry to say, it's going to cost you more money, but get the MDR. Now, we'll give one other thing, a benefit to the AR. I think it's a little bit easier for field stripping. Popping out one pin and rotating the upper, how it just pivots out. That is easier to deal with than the MDR. And then also, if you were to have a malfunction, it's probably a little bit easier to deal with on the AR platform than it is the MDR. But I am at the point really almost like I am with the ACOG. Things are, you get a good quality rifle or good quality optic, the quality is so good, they're so reliable and so durable that malfunction handling, if you're taking care of your rifle, should not be too big of an issue. So again, you may, if you get into, I was out at the Ambidextral Gunfighter Proving Grounds, as I call it, in Wyoming, and it's very dusty, and if you're familiar with Wyoming, very windy. In fact, one day it was like a 70-mile-an-hour storm blow through, and so it was blowing dust like crazy. And so, while it's not like you're dumping sand and stuff down in the action, there was plenty of dust in the air, and it was getting it, it was picking up some, but I didn't have any problems with it or the AR. Now, it may be that with further testing than what I'm going to give the rifle, military grade testing, maybe the MDR has some issues. But for me, let's say that the MDR is maybe a little bit less reliable in the field, although it's not been my experience, but let's say it was a little bit less reliable in the field. To me, the advantage of being fully ambidextrous, that is huge. And as I've noticed some of my other videos, and what we learn in paintball is that if you're fully ambidextrous, you do not get hit in center of mass in paintball. I'm talking tournament X-ball type paintball. You do not get hit center of mass. Everyone's making such optimal use of cover that the only places you're getting hit are just on the edge of your mask or on just that part of your arm, elbow, and shoulder that's sticking out from behind cover. Because if you're doing things right, this ain't being exposed at all. Occasionally, what they call a bunkering move in paintball, you might get shot in the back, and if you're running and diving into cover from one position to another, you could get shot then. But so, in my view, if I had to make the choice, and you don't have to make that choice, but if you had to make the choice, in my opinion, if you had to choose between being fully ambidextrous with your rifle or body armor, a plate carrier, I would choose being fully ambidextrous. Now, And the ideal thing is you can do both. You can be fully ambidextrous, make optimal use of that cover, and then have some body armor as well as that backup. But if I had to choose, be fully ambidextrous. It's Mark Laughlin with the Ambidextral Gunfighter. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.